You already know that arguing with your parents about college doesn't work. You've tried it, it goes nowhere every single time, and all you're doing is guaranteeing that they'll never actually listen to you. And if you don't know me, my entire business is literally just helping people skip college. So I've walked a lot of people through this exact conversation, and just last week I was on this call with one of my students, and this is what his dad said.
My dad's like, Arda, stop saying you have a business. Like, I need you to lock in. I need you to get a job in the summer. Anything now.
And I can promise you, every single time that somebody fails to have these conversations with your parents, it comes down to the exact same thing. And it's not what you say, how you say, or how much you actually prepare, but it just comes down to the fact that you never took the time to realize it from your parents' perspective. You never took the time to realize that they're not actually wrong. And once you take that time and you use the fact that they're right, that's how you can actually win this conversation. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact framework that I use with every single one of my students. Not just Arda, but also Jace, who got into acquisition.com at 18, Bruce, who got into tech sales at 19, and Bilal, who got into it instead of law school, and so many other people who did the exact same thing. And it's not just about what to say, but it's how to think about the entire conversation, how to frame it, and how to get your parents to actually start listening to you. Because if you can just dial this in and know how to have this conversation, you can genuinely save yourself 4 full years of your life and millions of dollars in opportunity cost. So let's start with why this keeps failing. Because most people will try to bring it out, get shut down immediately, and then try to find them at a better time, try to do more research, have a better argument. But the reality is you can keep doing that forever and you're going to fail every single time. And here's why. Because the second you go into the conversation trying to win, trying to prove them wrong and change their mind, they just try to do the exact same thing. The more closed-minded you are, the more they feel like they've failed and they need to get you to switch your mindset. And I know that's not what you came here, but the reality is that your parents are not actually wrong. I mean, think about it from their perspective. They've raised you for 18 full years, and the entire time they thought that you were going to go to school because that's what everybody did around their time. That's what the people who found success did. And they saw all the people that didn't. They ended up working in construction, cleaning, very low level, low paying jobs. And they obviously don't want their kid to end up like that. They want you to be able to grow, have a stable career, be able to take care of your family. And they hear that you're not going to go to college, and that's what they imagine. The complete opposite of that you're not going to ever be able to do all of those things. And the second that you understand that you're not trying to fight against them, you're not trying to convince them differently, you're just trying to show them how that path that you're doing and what you want to do actually aligns with those goals and the end goals, and you obviously want to be stable, you want to make money, you want to be able to support your family, you can actually get them to listen. So here's exactly how you actually do that. Instead of being super closed-minded and saying, I'm not going to go to college, because again, that gets them to be closed-minded back. You want to show that you're super open-minded. And all that you really want to do is just take a gap year. And because what's happening there, instead of just slamming the door in their face, they're like, all these things running through their mind, that you're not going to get to that future that we talked about, that you're not going to be able to support the family, you're not going to be able to make money. It's literally just a gap year. I mean, a gap year is pretty traditional, and when you tell people that you're taking a gap year, all of a sudden those same people, they'll be like, what? Really? You're not going to go to college? Are you really sure you want to do that? They're going to start congratulating you, because for whatever reason, taking a gap year is so much more acceptable in society, and people feel like they'll actually lead to more personal growth, and you actually start college at a point where you have some advantage. And the whole idea is that you want to show that you're open-minded. You're not completely closed-minded, and you just say, yeah, I know I'm young, I know I don't have everything figured out, but I want to take this gap year to go after what I care about, whether that be sales, marketing, whatever other skill that you have, and you show that you might go to college after. You can even take night classes and get your degree while you do it if after a year you find that it doesn't lead you to those goals. But overall, you're just admitting that you're not 100% sure what you want to do, and you feel like that will lead you to a better understanding at the end of the day. And then you want to explain the worst case versus base case scenario, kind of like a pro and con type of thing, right? So what's the worst case that would happen? Say you go after a sales role, right? Because you obviously need to have some sort of plan if you're going to try and explain this to them. So you go after a sales role, and for whatever reason, you land a pretty low paying sales role where you make 70K your first year. And then you end up being really bad at it, you don't like it, guess what? Like, school is literally there. It's not gonna be hard to find a school to go to, especially after you have that experience. And even then, when you find a pretty low paying sales role, 70K thousand, right? 70K thousand. Even when you find that low paying role, now you have, after taxes, 50K saved up that you can then use towards school if that's what you feel like you need to do, or put that towards your own business or towards whatever other career that you want to pursue. And throughout that entire time, yes, sure, you made a little bit of money, but beyond that, you've grown so much as a person because you went after what you cared about. Maybe you moved out and started supporting yourself. You started learning those skills of sales. You know how to persuade people, you can talk better, and you can apply that to every single aspect of your life. And then let's look at the best case scenario. You land a role that's 90 to 100K. You still learn all those skills and you're literally getting paid to learn them. You continue and absorb all that information, the skills, you're able to move up, and you can still get your degree if you want. If you find that for whatever reason there is a ceiling where you can't advance anymore, you can literally just get your degree on the side while you're getting paid at the same time to learn real skills. And in both of those cases, you can always get a degree if you feel like down the line there is going to be some reason to. And the thing is, you don't even have to make a decision at that point, because the reality is, if you're thinking about this conversation, if you're at that point, it sounds like you don't have a role fully figured out. You just want to go after it. So it's completely fine to actually leave those doors open. For me, I applied to over 20 universities, and only then did I start looking into sales in the first place. So you can even say that. Like, I might not even be able to get a role, but I feel like if I get one for 120K, it would be really weird to not even try and take that. And then I can just put that money towards college if I wanted to the next year. But it would just be such a miss of an opportunity if I let that not even be an option. So that's exactly how you want to mention it. You want to show that you're super open-minded, that you're not closed off at all, but you simply want to give yourself a shot at something else. And that might lead you to even having a better idea of what you want to do in college if it comes down to it. But the biggest thing that you want to show is obviously respect, confidence, be mature about it, but just stand up for yourself. But the thing is, knowing what to say and being able to actually say it in the real situation are completely two different things. Because you can prepare the entire thing all you want, but when you sit there and you actually come to talk with your parents, you feel the energy in the room, you maybe sweat, you start having anxiety, you don't know what to say, and then just everything you prepared gets thrown out the window. And I've seen this countless of times. Not to mention that if you're watching this video, your parents are probably not the type to just hear you out and say, oh, okay, you should definitely go after that. I actually think a gap year is a really good idea for you. Because when I mentioned this to Arda, this is exactly what he thought his dad would react.
That was a very good question. I'm trying to imagine. I mean, he'd probably say something along the lines of, okay, Arda, I mean, it's your life. You know what you want to do. And then say something about university, I'm guessing.
Like how you need university.
Something like that, probably.
Because the reality is they're not gonna hear you out and immediately be fully bought into this idea not going to college. Because they know that at the end of the day, when you're saying a gap year, it's one step farther from actually taking that path. And that's completely fine, because all you're doing is you're showing them that you better understand where they're coming from, and you're getting them to slowly become more open-minded. You're starting to plant those first seeds. And what you need to understand to be actually prepared for this is, one, how to say everything that I mentioned before, but then also be prepared to what they're going to say and how they're going to react when they hear everything. So now I'm gonna walk you through exactly how to prepare for that conversation and everything that I just walked you through, because it's obviously going to look different for everybody. So the first thing that you wanna do is just tailor everything that I said about the gap year, about whatever role it is that you're looking for, because at the end of the day, you need to have some sort of plan for this to even work out. And then just write the entire thing down. Before you go, just write it down and make sure they logically make sense. And after you get it to that point, start reading it out loud. Film yourself, listen back to how you say it, get super comfortable actually saying the words, so that by the time you get to them and you start saying the entire thing, you don't seem out of place. Because as I mentioned throughout this entire video, the biggest thing that you want to show them beyond just what you say and how you say it is that you're super open-minded. You want to be super respectful. You want to be mature. You want to be showing them that you have the conviction that you can actually do this. That way, when you're more open-minded, you're going to eventually make them feel understood. You're going to show them that you critically thought about this before you just decided, that you're not a little kid that just has random phases, and you understand that this might not be what you want to do forever. You might end up going back and going to school. You might end up switching careers. You might completely fail, and it's going to be super, super hard. Beyond all of that, you still want to go after it, and understanding all of those things is not going to stop you. And you want to go into that conversation expecting that they might end up cutting you off, trying to shut you down immediately, get frustrated, maybe even super overstimulated. So you obviously want to pick a decent time and a good environment to do this in. But you want to be prepared for them to say, what if it doesn't work out? You're going to miss out on the college experience. You're going to regret it. We're going to kick you out. They might even say that there's a certain point in your career where you just can't continue and progress if you don't have a degree. And obviously, you know your parents way better than I do. And you know that they're going to say certain things that are different. But you want to write down the things that you think they're going to react. The same way that I asked Arda what he thinks his dad is going to react. Do the exact same thing. Write down what you say and think, if I was to say that to my parents right now, what would they say back? But at the end of the day, coming from sales, the way that you want to respond to that is almost handling it like an objection. You want to make it seem that you agree with them, that you fully understand where they're coming off, and sometimes even using the fact that you agree with them for the reason to do this. So let me explain. For example, if they say that there is a ceiling and you're not going to be able to progress past a certain point in your career if you don't have a degree. And I can get paid over 6 figures at that point while I'm figuring it out. And that same sentence, deferring to one being a gap year and deferring to being super open-minded and not being closed-minded at all, that can use for pretty much every single objection that they give you. When they say, what if it doesn't work out? When they say you're throwing your future away, that you're going to regret this, you can reply with that exact same thing that you're just saying. But I'm not saying I'm gonna do this forever. Like, I might just end up getting a degree next year in the evening. And really the most important thing, whatever you say, is to stay super calm. Even when they get pretty overstimulated, when they start maybe shouting a little bit, staying calm, staying super respectful, and staying super confident is going to show that you're serious about this and that you're mature, that you're not that little kid anymore. You can start making decisions for yourself. And whatever you do, keep standing up for yourself. You cannot back down when this is happening, no matter how stimulating the entire thing gets, because it will get to that point eventually. And look, the reality is that after you have this conversation the first time, it might not end up being a yes. It might just be starting to plant that seed. It might just end up being worse than it was. But at the end of the day, if you get to that point and you're 18 years old, then at some point you need to be able to make a decision for yourself, and they might only come back around later down the line. And that might be after they see how hard you work to get a role. That might be after you end up landing the role, after you can support yourself independently. But you just need to ask yourself, am I going to disappoint myself or disappoint them? And that's exactly why the next thing that I'm going to say is the most important one. Because being confident, showing that this is truly what you want to do, is something that you can't just fake. You need to be fully confident and really understand that if you're going to go after this, it's because it's genuinely the path that makes the most sense for you right now. Even if you'll end up doing something else later, if you're at a point where right now, even if you're not completely sure what you want to do, you'd rather figure that out as you actually go, learn a real skill, and get paid to do it instead of just going to school because it's the default option. Because that's really what it just became nowadays. Going to college, it just became the default path. And the reality is that as a concept, it just doesn't even make sense anymore. Most people go to school because they don't know what they want to do, and they end up learning about general education when they learn about jazz classes, yoga, history, and that's basically just stalling and waiting for them to find what they actually want to do, when the entire time they could be getting paid to learn some skill, and then as they do it, figure out what it is that they actually want to do. Especially if you want to have your own business down the line. You can start getting paid money that you'll eventually be able to invest in your own business to literally learn those skills while soaking a bunch of knowledge by just working at a real company and talking to everybody in the different departments around you. So let me break it down a little bit more. Because at the end of the day, there's always some sort of risk. There's the risk that you end up going after what you want to do, you end up being super bad, and you end up failing. And then at that point, you can just end up going to school. But then on the other hand, there's the risk of not even trying, just going to school straight away because you're too scared to talk to your parents, spending 4 years there, whatever it is that you're going to pay, and never even finding out how much farther you could have been if you gave yourself a shot. And I'm not even just talking about how much money you could have made, but also the personal growth, the people that you could have met, And yeah, sure, how much money you could have made in 4 years of your life. So why in the world would you just start with going after what would otherwise be the worst case possible? Generally, you can always go back to school. That's what 90% of people do nowadays, and it's not going to be hard. I mean, just think 2-3 months ahead. Say you had this conversation and you're at a point now when you had these decisions. You can either go to whatever school you want to go to, or you can have whatever dream perfect role that you want. Whether that be 100K for the first year, 200K. If you genuinely had those two options and it was the location that you wanted, with the people you wanted, at the company that you wanted, what type of role would it take for you to actually want to go that route? Where it would just be a no-brainer to just go there. And then once you figure that out, write down everything that you need about that role and just go after that one. So at the end of the day, it is your responsibility because you already know what you want to go after. Otherwise, you would not still be watching this video. So stop arguing with your parents. Use what I showed you today and have that conversation the right way. And if you're still not sure what it is that you want to do, just watch this video right here.